Ian, where are you, darling?
Ian's. They're all going to go to the microphone over
microphone.
there, Father. Okay.
God.
Ian Stewart.
Can you hear?
Stewart.
Oh,
Ian
right.
Stewart.
Bob Ian Stewart, good Scot, Collingwood supporter.
Oh, God bless you, my son.
I've known you for a long time. You married friends of mine in the old hall in Park Street.
Oh, yes.
Kerry and Jerry, by name. That day, not to put too fine a point onto it, I fell in love with you.
Oh, that's nice.
And you, Lou, and Joe Jacoby, Lou Harriott, probably epitomise, for me, a priest.
Yeah, rough knockabouts.
That's good. What I want to know is, would you consider joining with me in the larrikin party and standing for Prime Minister, etc.?
Look at this. With what's his name? With Mr. Palmer.
Well, at least he's got money.
And Dougie. There's Dougie's joined Mr. Palmer, hasn't he? So, yeah, or anything. We'll do anything, you know, to do anything for world peace. But I think every man, woman and child has to join. I don't know what you do with party politics these days. So the only thing is for everybody to join a party, but everybody won't do that. So everybody has to do it. It's all or nobody.
Could you
The larrikin party.
Sorry.
See, I was a bit nervous. Andrea will tell you about the title, the larrikin priest, because you have to know what it means. The Aussie meaning for larrikin is all right. See? But I mean, some of the kiddies might think that larrikin means, you know, fool or terrorist or something. It doesn't mean that at all. But we scrapped it, didn't we, Andrew? We scrapped Maverick.
Well, Maverick was too hard.
Too hard. Maverick.
We've got another question, Father, from this gentleman.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, one question you may have thought about, what do you think will happen one day when eventually you
Dead.
Yeah, you cark it, yeah.
Yeah. What, shuffle off my mortal coil, as my father would say. To die, to sleep. What is that saying in Shakespeare? To sleep? No, to die, to sleep, to die, perchance to dream. And in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off our mortal coil must give us pause. Interesting.
You're not afraid to die, Father?
Well, I mean, I'm a bit like Woody Allen. I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens. You know?
Michelle?
No, that's a bit cheap. Cheap?
Oh, sorry.
Cheap. It sneaks up on you or something, you know what I mean?
Father, you wanted to go home
Dressed
early.
as a clown, you know. If it came dressed as a clown, I wouldn't worry so much, you know.
The gorgeous Michelle, one of my colleagues,
Sorry,
she's
Michelle.
an esteemed editor and writer. She's going to ask you a question.
Steamy. What?
If only,
You know I
Father
said
Bob.
esteemed.
No, and in fact, Ron Burrows is one of my students, and he teaches me a great deal, I can tell you.
Oh, don't treat him.
I was really interested, Father Bob, in what you had to say about people whisperers. And I guess it's a statement and a question, is what your view of a situation where in corporations, in companies where people have invested a lot of time and often a whole working life, a whole 20 years of, you know, productive time in a company, and as companies are getting smaller and they're cutting people, it strikes me that they're cutting some of the people whisperers out of organisations because productivity isn't measured in that way.
No.
Do you see that? And
Oh,
and
of
what's the antidote for
Because
that?
there's those 40 years since 70. Is it 40 years? Because I remember in the old days, in the 70s and the 80s, even the corporations were wrapped in social enterprises and all that kind of thing. And also they were prepared to accept that there were 3 bottom lines. Do you remember that, any of you, lot? So when we started off, there's only one bottom line, that was money, profits. Then they said, oh God, there's something else in life. This is the lovely 70s and all that. Something else in life, and guess what it is? What's people? See? So the second bottom. And then they said, oh God, there's another bottom line, the triple bottom line, which was the environment. Now that was almost a perfect package. We're not going to say, we're going to say you can't make profits. You see, but you almost have to go back to the patriarch or of wealth, who was Adam Smith, with the Wealth of Nations, when he keeps telling people, yes, you're making a lot of money, yes, congratulations, we love money, but in fact, don't forget where the money comes from. It comes from the workers. No workers, no money, isn't it? And he said you've got to treat your workers with the utmost respect. Whereas the Old Testament, which is desert stuff, desert philosophy turned into theology, the desert stuff that said, don't let the worker go home at night without his wages. See? So it's just ordinary common sense. You, it said to the owner of the vineyard, you have got your wealth. That man has got nothing else except what he takes home from you in his pocket. So the bloke on television the other night worked for Walmart in the United States of America, and he got $8 an hour. He said, by the end of the week, my mother and I live in the same flat. By the time I've shared the rent, at the end of the week, he said, I've got $10. Now, that flies in the face even of Adam Smith's philosophy. So the bottom lines, you've got to respect the three of them. You can't have one without the others. And that's what happened. We've now gone for the bottom line again, haven't we? So people, I wouldn't let Ford out of the country. I'd lock them all up, but I mean, that's the touch of the commo. How dare they close the bloody factories down and say we're off? You can't do that. They've plundered the place for how long? 100 years or something. No, 100 years, 50, 60 years. The same with the other places down at Geelong. Plunder. You're all right. Well, nobody leaves this country alive. Because, in fact, you better start, before you leave the place, you've got to give the show back to the workers and to the neighbourhood that you plundered. See, same with my place, South Melbourne, they pulled all the bloody factories down. Then they've got the cheek to say to a generation of young people, you're criminals. Put all the place down. Jeffrey pinched the town halls, so you had no municipal councils. Therefore, you had no municipal staffs. You see what I mean? This is the place where the ordinary working class and the underclass used to go for employment. And then they took the bloody football side away because of the bottom line, which couldn't afford it. And they didn't realise they ripped the heart out of the community because that's the only place they could go. That was the place of worship, was Skilton. You know, and the song they sing at the funerals and that the Archbishop won't let them sing. You know, what is it?
Shake down the thunder
Shake
from the
down
sky.
the thunder from the sky.
I know. You'll have me weeping in a moment.
Right.
Our last question for tonight.
Father Peter Swinney's my name. I've lived and worked most of my life in West Australia, where there are Indigenous people. Hell of a lot. Quite a few years I worked for the Christian Brothers with Indigenous boys in outback areas. Seems to me, even after 225 years, Australia can't get it right with white and black relationships. How would you, now we're getting Sudanese, Africans, different nationalities, I mean, it's just a time bomb. If you had sole control, what would you do for people to get on better?
Join them. That's what I'd do. I mean, one of the techniques we developed and we're proud of, my foundations, was street work. Because in the old days, people wouldn't go near the streets to work. I mean, with street people, they made appointments. Come to the office, 9 o'clock. Now, street people are not going to come to the bloody office. They won't even go to the hospital. They won't go anywhere that says that you've got to come in here as a number. Because they already know they're a number. And that's all. So they create their own, environment to live in, which is, to us, appears to be lawless and all the rest of it, but it's theirs. You know what I mean? But I mean, I can't see any shortcut to actually getting on the streets and joining the Sudanese and joining with respect. The policemen are doing their best, but you see, they go with a bloody uniform. The Aussies are strange because the Aussies kept saying they were larrikins. And they said everybody in a uniform is a fraud, cheat and liar. That was a given, wasn't it? So the parking man was a fraud, cheat and liar, even though it might be your uncle. See, but anybody in a uniform, harking back to the origins, wasn't it, where we were stood over by blokes in uniform. The same with the miners at Eureka. See, the troopers march up from Melbourne, don't they, to put them all in their place. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, it's even declared later, isn't it, in the courts, wasn't it, that the workers were legally entitled to take the action they took, weren't they? Exonerated. The bottom line, yes, yes, the triple bottom line. So, I mean, I can't see anything short of it, and I know that people, you know, the fears that the gods, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. They drive us mad every day in the press and with the terrible things that dark people are doing, with the terrible things that people with unpronounceable names are doing. And yet we know, those of us who've been around for 5 minutes, we know that in fact after World War II, if it wasn't for the migrants, the boat people, we wouldn't have had an Australian Commonwealth. We even stuck them in the bloody camps, didn't we? Bonagilla, and we did all of that, and they still fell in love with us, the Italians and the Greeks and the Yugoslavs. And they built the Snowy River hydro scheme. I know because when I was first up as a priest in Heidelberg, we had Austin Hospital and used to go to visit, and these big blokes aged 20, big strong men, had broke their backs on the Snowy, run over by earth-moving equipment and rock falls, and they'd come to this country to help us to rebuild, to build, and to get away from the horrors of Europe, and they found themselves on their back and never walk again. In fact, one bloke had come to my last mass at the church in January 12. I hadn't seen him since then. Ivan Razojevic. I seen him in ward whatever it was when he was 19 or 20 with a broken back. And lo and behold, he turns up, for God's sake, that many years later, because he'd seen in the press that poor old Bob has been extradited with Julian, you know. He's gone to the Ecuadorian embassy and I'm down the street in bloody 91 Victoria Avenue. You see, and there's Ivan Razojevic in his wheelchair. See, that's glorious ordinariness. You could not even script it. Nothing sensational, but I mean it cuts to the bone, and that's people being prepared. You do it all the time. Parents do it all the time. I mean, the parents who don't give up on the teenage kid who is a fraud, cheat and liar. See? And the police sergeant says, we've got your son who's a fraud, cheat and liar in the cells. And I presume you'll come, tomorrow? And she said, no, I'm coming now. Because he might be a fraud, cheat and liar, but he's my fraud, cheat and liar. So he's my son. Now, how are you going to get back to all that stuff? You see, it's interesting that despite the electronic things, we've got everything, you know, that helps us to think and everything that helps us do everything, doesn't it? All those electronic devices. We still haven't given up on the human heart. It's just that the poor bloody thing is undernourished. See? Which is where in comes, what do you call it, music, dance, poetry. Thank you, Mr. Alistair. Up there, Australia's leading poet, ladies and gentlemen. Alistair Stewart, you see. Wordsmiths, you're doing, aren't you, there? He's doing. But I mean, that kind of thing, we mustn't give up on that. And the women must teach us. The Aboriginal people must come and teach us about spirituality. Please, we should now make all Aboriginal people tutors. You see, I don't know what they're going to say down at St Kilda under that banyan tree. You know, hey, listen, put the flagon down for 5 minutes because you've got a class. You see? Well, it doesn't matter because he'd probably do better with his flagon than the bloody lecturer will without it. You know what I mean? So make the Aboriginal people our tutors in philosophy and make the women. See, you can't get past that. When I saw that bloke in Woolwich with the bloody knives, this is Shakespeare. There's blood from one end of the stage to the other. If you look at the last act of, what is it? Hamlet, isn't it? Or Macbeth. Blood everywhere. And there's the boy standing there and he's actually making a speech. And off he goes, and who comes out of the wings? One woman, doesn't she? And she says, "Oh, listen, excuse me, what do you think you're doing? What are you trying to achieve here, son?" And he had already apologised to the women who had to witness this butchery, didn't he? And then the other women came out of the wings, didn't they? And covered up the body. Now, this is sensational. But we never hear of them again. We only hear of the blokes. See? And I reckon our women of Woolwich should in fact run courses in how to, in the most dangerous situation, teach boys to be men. Huh? I think the women came out of the wings and called these blokes off the streets in Syria and come home. Well, then I think we'd build a world with women taking the lead. I would have thought. Anyway, the women are going.
Could you please thank Father Bob Maguire?